Hi, my name is Moshe Kindler, and I'm the publisher of The Jewish Link.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Kratz. I'm editor of The Jewish Link.
And you're on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast. Elizabeth, we are here in Teaneck in our studio, and we have a very, very special guest who, and I think I'm right about this, I think first came into our radar screen through Rabbi Katz, Eitan Katz from NCSY, introduced me to both him and his wife probably in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. And he is a very, very special person, and he's with us, and his name is Lior Arussy. He's also on a book tour, okay? And I'm here with an advanced copy of Dare to Author, okay? And we were just talking about it before. And Lior, welcome to the Jewish Link podcast. Welcome. And let's. I know that you're sort of a local. I know that I know that you're certainly in the community. You've definitely been around New Jersey. Tell us a little bit about your where you are today. How'd you get here? And then we'll move on.
Sure. So a little bit about background about myself. Started my career in the high-tech business before we knew that we are startup nation. I was involved in two Israeli startups. One that did very well and helped me pay my college loans, and the other one that did not. The second one moved me to California. My wife and our 3 kids, we moved to California. We started to work there. And after a couple of years, I took a very high position at HP. I was the head of internet security for HP. But we very quickly realized that I have a choice to make, either career or Jewish life, because Jewish life did not really exist in the Silicon Valley. And there were too many compromises. When we look at the chinuch, we look at other things, we said, okay, chinuch comes first, and that's when we started to look for a better place to be. And we landed on Livingston, New Jersey. We liked Kushner at the time, the school, and that's where our connection to New Jersey started. From Livingston, we moved to Fairlawn because our kids then moved to Mayanot and then to TABC. So again, another move for chinuch. We have 5 children, 5 grandchildren. 2 of our kids are here.
And it was Altov, I think, also.
Thank you. The latest granddaughter.
You went from 4 grandchildren to 5 in the last few months. Yes.
Very nice.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Was born here at Presbyterian. We have 5 grandchildren. 2 of our children are living here. 3 of our children live in Israel. And my youngest son is going to Frisch. So from a Northern New Jersey school standpoint, I covered the building fund for TABC, Mayanot, Frisch, Noam, and Yavne.
Wow. Very impressive.
By the way, that's almost...
it's almost a grand slam.
Yeah. It is. I feel like a real estate mogul here. I have so many buildings that I've contributed to.
You missed a few schools, but it's okay.
Maybe 1 or 2.
So
you are Mariah.
Then on the business side, 2003, I started my own business called Strativity for my garage. It grew to about 150 consultants with offices in Australia, Canada, London, and New York. And we were basically focusing on 2 things. Helping companies become customer-centric and business transformation. Rav Lichtenstein asked me once, what do I do? And I told him that I found the financial formula for Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha.
Wow.
I teach companies that it is financially beneficial for them to treat customers and employees better. And that's what
Did he accept that? Did he like that?
He liked it when beautiful. I provided the financials to back it up. But we were privileged, really, with Yad Hashem, to work with some of the biggest brands, from Walmart to Mercedes-Benz to Delta Airlines to BMW to, in the healthcare space, Janssen Pharmaceutical, Johnson & Johnson, the Philharmonic of LA, the Kennedy Center, the Metropolitan Museum of Arts. I mean, Kodesh Baruch Hu took us to a lot of places, and Baruch Hashem, we were able to do very well there. I published 10 books, and Dare to Author is the latest one.
Yeah, and tell us the story. I know you shared a story of how this book came about, because I just love that story when you told it to me.
So yeah, it is a phenomenal incident, if you may. So I'm working with an insurance company, one of 3,000 insurance companies that exist in the US, and I've been working with them for a couple of years. I was preparing my presentation for the board of directors and the senior management on innovation. And then 30 days before the presentation, I go on a call with the CEO, and just to review the slides, just to review the content. Everybody already approved it. The vice president's reviewed it. And he goes on the call, and he said to me, Lior, I'm changing the topic. I'm like, Ben, you can change the topic 30 days before. He said, I'm changing the topic. You'll present about innovation another time. You are going to talk about your next book. And silence. I'm like, Ben, there's no next book. There is. You just don't know it. Come on, Ben, don't play with me. There is no next book. Lior, you're going to talk about your next book. I said, Ben, I have 30 days. The best I can do is I'm going to bring Winnie the Pooh and I'm going to read it really slowly for 90 minutes and you'll pay me for that. And he said, if that's your choice of how to use the 90 minutes, I'm sure I'm going to learn something new. And he hangs up. And I'm looking
You must really like this guy.
And I'm looking at the other VPs. I'm like, did any one of you know what? They were like stumped. We were all like, what the heck? And that was the conversation.
Wow.
So 2 weeks prior, I published an article. It was not even a book. It was just an article that challenged who authors your life story. And I sent it to him. I said, Ben, this is the closest thing to new material that I have. He reads it. He said, that's what I want you to talk about. And within 30 days, I had to put together a full content for pretty educated executives. And that's the nucleus of the book. Because Ben knew about the book before I knew about it, and that's how I started the book.
Elizabeth, that doesn't happen to us already. If you're forced into a book, huh?
I mean, it's sort of like someone shaking you and saying, I know you have something great inside you, and even you don't know it. And I don't know, maybe be like someone being fired and being told this is your opportunity to do something new.
Yeah,
that's exactly what Ben did, and somehow I don't know what struck him that day. He's a bit impulsive of a personality, but very successful executive, and it was somewhere between total anxiety and excitement. He believes that I have a book. Where the heck am I going to get that book? But somewhere between those two emotions, I was challenged to go and investigate this concept of who is authoring your life story in a deeper way, and then the book came.
And this is not just relevant for business people. This is relevant for anybody in all walks of life facing any kind of challenge.
So let me kind of now give it more the background. So when you help organizations transform themselves, they're usually at a critical point where the hardest thing is to activate their employees to adopt the new whatever you want them to do. Okay? And I spend a lot of times, our company, we work with over 2 million employees across all the different projects we've done. And we realize something very interesting. When you say to someone, you need to change, what they hear is a negative judgment of the past performance. They are not afraid of the future because they don't know what the unknown future is. But the real issue is not teach me the new. Is what do I do with the past? Because you just called 20 years of my life a mistake. I can't process that. I can't file that in my brain, in my life. And what we found out is that in order for us to mobilize people, we need to help them rethink the whole concept of change and get them out of an old story that they're stuck in and help them to get to the new story. Because what happened is because of that negative judgment, we treat change as a struggle, as a fight. There's the fight, the flight, but we suffer from change. We don't enjoy change, where we should be enjoying it. The second thing is we feel that we are unqualified to handle the change. And my main premise in the book is our default position to change is victimhood. We immediately get into victimhood. We blame others. We do whatever things are, but take action. The second thing about it is a struggle can actually be solved if we will convert old stories or old life experiences into future strength and tools. And oftentimes we leave life experiences unauthored, and as a result of it, feel that the next challenge we are facing is brand new. But in reality, the roots of it were already there. We just didn't convert them. So the book is really build a combination of a guidebook and a text to help people process past experiences and convert them into future strength and into future toolbox, if you may.
So you're saying when people leave parts of their life unauthored, do you mean that also that they've not examined or sort of, I don't know, done like sort of a post-mortem of a period in a life? Is that,
correct?
Yes?
And let's build it up.
Okay.
So one of the main chapters in the book is COVID. Because COVID made all of us victims. We were all stunned. We were all unprepared. And none of the authorities that we were counting on knew what to do. The health system did not know what to do. Academia did not know what to do. The government did not know what to do. The UN did not know what to do. So from a global phenomena, we all started as victims. And I had clients calling me saying, Lior, we don't know what to do. And I said, okay, let's first talk about your emotions. And we talk about the emotions, and the prevailing notion was this is unprecedented.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, factually, you're correct, but we have a problem with that. Because when you say unprecedented, you also say, I don't have the tools and I'm helpless. Mm-hmm. So I said, you know what? Let's do a simple exercise. Let's leave COVID aside for a second. When was the last time that you have experienced an unprecedented event? For many of the business people, it was 2008, 2009, the financial crisis. I said, clearly you're talking to me today, so you survived it, okay? So let's leave COVID right now. Let's go to that time, and let's build it up. Let's write a story, like we're writing a story. What was the threat? Who was the villain? Who was the victim? Who was the hero? What was the superpower? Which values of yours were tested? Which values of yours did you validate? What was a change in perspective that happened to you as a result of that experience? And we literally wrote this story for an hour and a half. And based on that, we extracted, okay, so this is your superpower. This is how you actually confront challenges and unprecedented events. These are the values that are going to come to life. Now let's apply it to COVID. Mm-hmm. So it's not just closing them, but it's converting them. Mm-hmm. Okay? A lot of people journal emotions, but it stays that way. You close those chapters. I don't want to close those chapters. I want to turn them like Lego building blocks. And I'm saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put you here, not as a useless victim. Mm-hmm. You have the answer. You just don't know it yet. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking for that answer, go back to the last unprecedented event, try to process what you've done there, and how did you survive and hopefully thrived it, and now bring those here. Rabbi Isaac Zichrono Livracha says that we are all always at the juncture between where we are needed the most and where our skills are most applicable. Mm-hmm. We're always in that juncture. And we need just to find out what are those skills that we possess that are unique to us, that are applicable to that challenge that we are being called to do.
So you believe that every person has a previous challenge that they've survived that can be utilized in the present day to help them through a future event.
Absolutely.
And even cognizant of problems getting larger over time.
Absolutely.
Multiplication of traumas or
let's talk about
serious.
It.
Yeah.
So I've been asked that in interviews as well. Yeah. Lior, most of life we don't control the circumstances. Mm-hmm. And how do you deal with that? Somebody who got a disease, somebody who got and so on and so forth. And I said, let's open this conversation all the way. Did anybody ask you if you want to be born? That was an unplanned event for you. Did anybody choose your parents for you? Yeah. Yes, you didn't choose them. Did anybody chose your teacher in school for you? Yes. Life is full of unplanned events. What we are missing is the process of converting and understanding what have we gone through. I don't like to call them postmortem because it means closing them. I'm saying for me, they are the leverage, they are the runway, they are the accelerators that can get me there if we just going to be minded of the fact that when we go through experiences, we don't need to look at them as scars, but rather convert them into stars. This is what we don't do. We leave them as scars that we like to touch and say, oh, it was painful at the time. And I'm saying, no, these are your tools for the next one. You're being challenged with the next one, and they're all building on each other. Because if we do not believe that we are placed in circumstances or in challenges that we don't have the tools for them, then we're just created here as victims. Then what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's very intense. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's a very intense way of looking at things. I've heard various topics like this having to do with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, maybe saying things like, every experience you have leads you to then take the next step and gives you the tools you need for the future. And every Jew has a place in the world. Every person has a place in this world and a role. And you're put in a place to do this thing at this moment. But that's asking a person to really look into themselves.
Let's take our davening on Rosh Hashanah. Elokim ad shelo notzarti ke'ilu lo notzarti. V'achshav shenotzarti. What are we saying to Kadosh Baruch Hu? If you would have put us in the 13th century in Germany, I would be irrelevant. I'm not that piece of the puzzle for there. Mm-hmm. If you would have put me in Yemen in the 18th century, If you put me in Iraq with the Prahud programs, I wouldn't be. I'm fitting right here where I'm supposed to be. And we have a gift, and we have a special gift that we can give to other people. And the question is, what is that gift? So I'll share with you something interesting. Yesterday, I was talking to a major financial services organization in New York City, and we talked about the book and everything else. And I talked about what is your center of gravity. And I brought the concept of tzedakah. And I said, most people would think that tzedakah is charity. But I would like to share with you an interesting halacha in tzedakah that is very bizarre. That even the poor who just received from you are supposed to give. What's the vort? I mean, they're poor. They just gave. We just gave them. So they're going to take that money. What is the purpose of that? Because when the poor can give, the poor belongs. It's a communal responsibility. We're not here to fill up all the needs of the poor and whatever. We are here to give them dignity. We're here to include them in the community. And hence, the concept of tzedakah is not charity in the traditional English way. It's the tzedek, it's the justice of including them. And by including them, we're giving them dignity that can actually lift them up and not put them at the bottom of the situation. So even the poor who doesn't have money and might have few cents still need to find a way to belong and to tap into the power that they do have versus the power they don't have. And I cite in the book a study that was brought up in Harvard Medical Journal that actually those who give are living a happier life and healthier life than those who do not. Because the center of gravity is not what do I miss, consumerism, is what I can give, impact. And when we focus on the power we do have and not on the power we don't have, that's when you rise up.
Wow. Yeah. That's really inspirational.
Tell us a little more about the gratitude denial syndrome, like that, which I think I've heard of that. But
so I'm going to start with a small story. So I had a star employee that I took really from very, very low position, and she rose up throughout. And I was doing performance evaluation, and I'm starting to give her compliments, and I'm explaining to her how, what I liked from her work and so on and so forth. And I noticed that the more I give her good feedback, she is becoming more and more tense and more stressed. And eventually I stopped the conversation and said, Stacy, what's going on? You look totally stressed, and I'm giving you feedback that is very positive. And she said, can you just go to the bottom line and tell me what's wrong? And I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. She's like, the more you're going to tell me those things, the more I know that there's a punchline that's going to be very painful.
A but at the end.
A but at the end. And we all go for the but. Give me the but.
That's not a negative to want to hear the bad stuff first.
We'll talk about that in a minute if you want. We'll talk about that in a minute if you want. But here's what I said to her. Stacy, I really don't have a but. And then I started to reflect on what she was doing. I am trying to strengthen her from the place in which she's strong. So I want her to do more of that. What she's doing is dismissing her superpower that I just described to her, denying it, dismissing it. How often does happen to us? Somebody comes to us and says, great Vartor, and says, oh no, it took me only 2 minutes to do. Don't worry about it. No, I'm calling this the gratitude denial syndrome. And my point to people is that feedback, those compliments are actually the energy you need to face the next challenge, because they are representing your superpower. And if you're going to deny them, you're going to face the next challenge, the change or whatever, empty. Mm-hmm. We're taking exactly the energy that's supposed to help us distill and understand our strength, so we will know how to face the next challenge. And we're denying it for ourselves. Shame on all of us. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you something. Some of the teachers who taught my kids will remember this incident, and I will not name names. Okay. So imagine me going to parent-teacher conference, and I'm sitting with a teacher, let's say, of history. And the teacher will say, well, your child is D- in history. We need to work on it. And my answer is no. And the teacher will say, what do you mean? The D-. I said, look, if my child is a D- in history, there are two possible reasons. Her heart is not there, or you're not teaching so well. So let's go with my kid heart is not there. I just came from the math teacher who told me that my kid is B+ in math. So clearly her heart is in math. So I'm going to work on moving math from B+ to A+, and I'm not going to work on moving history from D- to D+, because that's not where her heart is. And eventually we're different, and we have different gifts. And we cannot have them one size fits all. Everybody is A in everything. Because when everybody is A in everything, I don't know what they stand for. So I wanted to focus with my kids on the strengths. I wanted to focus on what are you good at and how I can help you to be best in it, as opposed to constantly lingering as a mediocre history. History is just an example. And I remember a couple of the teachers were kind of like taken back by my comments, but I said, look, there's a child here. Do you want to frustrate them for the rest of their life that they are mediocre in history? Or do you want to make them shine in the superpower that they have? And clearly their superpower is not history. So let's just move on. They'll do their best. I tell them to be respectful, to do their homework, to do their tests, but I'm not expecting much because we all have a special superpower and we need to learn what that is, as opposed to trying to be everything to everyone.
And what if that teacher is what if it's answer number 2, if the teacher's at fault?
Well, I'll let them reflect on that on their own. I'm not here to judge them and whatever, but I would say that at the end of the day, a kid who loves a subject will find a way to self-learn. Yep. And to catch up and to get there, and a kid who's not is not. But my point with the gratitude denial syndrome is I'm calling everyone to rethink the way we actually process that, because this book is not about the past. This book is about helping you embrace the future and enjoy the future and not struggle and not suffer from it. And I'm trying to give people the awareness for who's authoring their life story when they are not the one. Imposter syndrome is another popular one. And how to take over your life story. So I'll give you a quick example, another one. Good news, bad news, what do you want to hear first? Don't think, just tell me. What?
Good news.
Good news.
Bad news.
Thank you.
What?
So listen, there's a full chapter there. I can tell you this is an area of contention with my wife because she doesn't agree with my assertion. And here's what I talk about. The majority of people are saying bad news first. And
Why?
I'm saying
we're wired that way.
That's
you know
crazy.
That? Stop. You know what? Oh, stop.
Let's do it.
I know. I need to stop.
Please.
Are you kidding me?
Elizabeth, last time I checked, you and I run a newspaper.
Yeah.
If it bleeds, it leads. You know that. Negative news is that's what I want to hear.
But our positivity bias is why people keep coming back.
That's not true. If we were more negative, people would read us too. Okay, sorry.
The function of the paper. Pro-Israel.
I get that.
Pro-Jewish.
I understand.
So let me tell you how
it's
building funds, shul openings, annual dinners.
We're drawn to the negative. Human thing. Go for it, Lior. Sorry, you know that.
Bad news first people are fixers of the past. Good news people first are creator of the future. Because when you ask for good news first, your mind is going to be, where's the opportunity? How can I explore? Mm-hmm. When people are saying, give me the bad news, they're saying, okay, where's the hole? I need to plug it. Yep. Where's the other hole? I need to plug that. Guess what? You're only maintaining a bad wall.
I need to phone a friend and
please.
This is really good.
I like what you're saying.
That's really good.
And good news first people, their mindset is saying, I am here to explore opportunities. I'm not here to preserve the past. Bad news people first I'm here to preserve. First, I'm a firefighter. I'm just going to take care of fires, right. But they're not looking forward. They're not future creators. They're preservers of the past. And that's an example that if you're not minded of that, and you will go with bad news first, your life story will be about preserving the past and not about embracing opportunities.
I feel like that's an indictment of what you just said.
No, stop.
You're trying to protect what you've built?
No, he was asking, what do you want to hear first?
What do you want to hear first?
But it goes deeper.
It's so good. It's really good. This is very interesting.
I'm very proud.
I feel like you're like a bit of a wizard.
Well, actually, Lior and I will be meeting, consulting. Lior and I are going to talk about the future of the Jewish link a little bit. So, because in a sense, I feel like I never really admitted this, but I feel like, we do have to figure out like the next steps for us.
I'll tell you something interesting. Yeah. So in my work, I had once an incident where a client the CEO of a large company came to me and he said, I want to understand one thing. Why didn't you fire us? We were such a difficult client. And I said to him, Are you proud of the achievement that we achieved together? I said, absolutely. They're beyond our expectations. I didn't think we can go there. And I said, so here's the reason. I guess I believed in you more than you believed in yourself, which I will take that as part of what I do. And the second thing is I've been on this journey multiple times. So what was for you a existential threat, for me was just an obstacle and a milestone that I knew is coming. And that's the difference between you and me, because I've already analyzed this journey many times. So I'm prepared for the next obstacle. And for you, it's an existential threat. Hence, alter your life story. So when the next obstacle is going to come, it's not going to be an existential threat. You're not going to freak out as you have because of that, you've been such a difficult client and I had to calm you down. But you look at it in, okay, I've got the tools. What do? I've got the values. How do I tackle it? That's what happens when people alter their life story.
I think it's interesting. I like everything you said. I really think it's very powerful, but I do have concerns about the customer experience.
Go ahead. Let's talk about it.
And I feel like often, we all have, dozens of experiences a year with various phone calls that you've been on hold with for half an hour, hassles, various insurance companies are a great opportunity. And often, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, I really want to say, you know what I want more than anything in the world. They say, can we ask your opinion?
Yeah.
What I want really more than anything in the world is to never, ever do business with you again. And a few times in my life, I've actually been able to change companies, or whatever, T-Mobile to Verizon or something like that. And the question I have there with companies that are too big to fail in some ways, maybe Verizon and T-Mobile is a good example.
Go ahead.
They're constantly like merging with each other, but like, is there any real value in improving customer experience on a grand scale when these companies are so large and the individual dollar is so, like, it doesn't matter to the person on the phone whether or not I am paying my $300 a month or whatever. Okay. It doesn't matter to them. Why should I give these people any money at all when it's clear that they don't care? And the customer experience for everything now, it's airlines.
Let's open it.
Right.
For the last 3 decades, I've been in the kishkes of this business, in the largest places. Let me start with the very simple thing. For most of the companies, there is no financial equation that says, if you do this, this is going to happen. So for them, customer experience is the cost of doing business. It's not a driver for growth. That's the mistake number one.
Interesting.
And therefore, you are a cost. You are a cost. You are not a growth. I'm going to give you one small story and then a success story. So I got one of the largest credit card companies calling me, and they're saying, look, we're the worst in customer service, and in all the reports, they are mentioning our name because we're the worst. But we don't want to be the best because that's expensive. So we want you to just put us in the middle. We just want to be hiding in the middle. Okay. Not the worst, not the best.
That's a great job. I can get you from being the bottom.
We want to disappear in the middle. I said, I'm sorry, we don't do this, but I would like to run an analysis and come back to you. And we ran an analysis that looked at the customer satisfaction scores as well as the financial rewards of these customers. And we mapped them into 3 categories: those who hate you, those who are indifferent to you, and those who really love you. And I came back and I said, guys, if your goal is to disappear in the middle, there is no financial driver for that. They said, what do you mean? I said, the people who hate you and the people who are indifferent to you are spending exactly the same amount. They said, okay, so what else did you find? I said, here's what I found out. If I can move 5% of the people who hate you and 5% of the people who are indifferent to you to people who loves you, that's a $300 million of additional charges a month. And the discussion stopped right then and there. And it moved from customer experience discussion to we need to capture that. So first of all, the biggest mistake of what you are dealing with is that they do not have that financial formula. They're also counting on your inertia. Most customers will not switch. There is a double inertia. Inertia 1, I don't want to go through the hassle, and the other one, the other ones are probably as bad as well. Now I'm going to take you into one of our success examples. Okay, so Mercedes-Benz was mentioned here. If you think it's easy to sell Mercedes-Benz, think again. These are affluent customers, big egos, very demanding, no room for error. For errors. We were brought in to both improve the customer satisfaction and the profitability of the company. And I said, guys, at the same time, are you crazy? I have 27,000 employees, 350 independent dealers. Everybody does their own thing because they are owned locally. And within 2 years, we took number 1 position in customer satisfaction, double-digit growth, and tripled the profitability of all the dealerships. How? By humanity? Let me give you a story. Okay? Customer calls in and he says, I'm bringing my car for service. I'd like a loaner. I said, thank you very much for calling. We'll get you a loaner. He said, no, I want an S-Class. Now, S-Class is the most expensive car. It's not part of the loaner. As an employee, you can say to him, sorry, sir, we don't have that. Nice try, but it's not going to happen. We taught them 2 rules. Always connect to the emotional and always focus on the power you do have. So the guy asked him, why do you need an S-Class? And he said, I was diagnosed with cancer. I drive from Connecticut to Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York, and it hurts me because the road is bumpy. And that's why I want. Still, the process says no. The employee can very easily hide behind the process and say no. He said, let me see what I can do. An hour later, he said to him, look, we don't have an S-Class in the loaner fleet, but somebody just returned one from leasing, so I'm going to get it washed up, and we'll arrange it for you. He said, when are you coming? He said, 7:30 in the morning. He said, you know what? I'll come to you 7:30 in the morning. The 7:30 in the morning, the customer comes out of his house. There are 2 people in the S-Class there. He's handing his keys to one of the people who takes his car for service, and then he's about to take the keys from the other guy. The other guy says to him, sir, today we're going to do things a bit differently. You're going to be sitting in the back. I've arranged for drinks and snacks for you. I'll drive you to Sloan Kettering. I'll wait for you outside. I'll be your chauffeur for a day, and I'll drive you back home. And the customer started to cry, and he was mumbling, my family doesn't have time to go with me to the hospital, and my car dealership does. And I remember talking to this employee. He said, Lior, I did what you told me. I was the hero of the story. I could have been the victim. I could have been hiding behind the process. I would have been justified. But this was one of the best days of my life because I chose in that story not to be the victim, but to be the hero. And this is a customer for life.
Yeah.
We've created 5,000 stories like that in the first year. Okay, 1 story is the exception to the rule. 5,000 stories, it's a cultural change. So can it happen on a large scale? Absolutely. What you need to do is you need to activate people from being a victim of the processes that they follow in their organization and to decide to rise up and to be the hero, listen to the human, and actually do something about it. Now, I'm going to give you a very frightening stat. According to Mayo Clinic study from 2017, which I cite in the book, 12% of the people who ask for second opinion receive the same diagnosis.
12%.
12%. That means
that's a very small number.
That is extremely small number. That's Mayo Clinic.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the confirmation bias as another one of those biases and prejudice that are forcing your life story to be in a different direction than what it should be. Why is that? Because the most experienced physicians sometimes don't even listen to us anymore. We're just saying 2 lines and they're already connected to something they've seen from someone else, and they make us all one size fits all,
right,
as opposed to listening to the individual. So part of that decision to be the hero is to really listen to how that person is needing me and how can I help them.
Yeah. It's very interesting, and I hope more companies will take advantage of your research, because that would really improve our lives.
Actually, Lior, the impression I got was you don't have any more time to take on new clients.
Yes, so I sold the business in 2018. Baruch Hashem, worked very well. I stayed there for another 2 years. Today, I actually spend my time between more family time, a lot of nonprofit that I do pro bono work, and then a handful of clients, not too many of them. But if there is a true interest, if there is a challenge, we'll find it.
I just could count on 2 hands the amount of the large multi-million-dollar businesses that could really benefit from this experience.
But you know what the problem with them, and I've been to many of them, and I've been invited to many of them, and I, by the way, selected in some cases not to work with them. Because their problem is they think that if they put it on the wall, then they are committed. And I'm saying it's not in the soul.
Right.
The issue is not on the wall. They're all, if I'll go to any one of the companies that you just mentioned, I will show you that on the wall, in the corporate values, it's about integrity and excellence and customer whatever, but the processes on the ground are not that. So the issue is, how do you embed it into those day-to-day operation? That's why when we come in, and I tell CEOs probably the hardest message, which is, I don't really care what you think. I'm going to go and talk to Susie from accounting. And they were like, who's Susie from accounting? I said, she's in charge of the strategy because she's the one who's actually executing day to day. If she chooses to do things differently, then this company will change. And if thousands of your people will choose, so our approach was always bottom up, Susie from accounting mindset, as opposed to management said that we should do. Do you know how many strategies like that were killed? 100
I mean, and
bets.
nowadays it's even more complicated with so many customer service fulfillment centers being overseas. English isn't their first language.
Absolutely.
It's just completely.
So I'll share.
How can a company culture be?
So it's beyond culture. I have a good story for you. Okay. So we did work for FedEx, okay, mm-hmm. and we went to one of those outsourced overseas mm-hmm. places. And we were doing this discussion with the employees, mm-hmm. and they said, now that you're talking, we have some problems with some customers. Why? They have unrealistic expectations. What are those? They expect that if they ship an envelope today, it should be arriving tomorrow. This is very unrealistic. In my village, 2 weeks is a good time.
Right.
And I'm like...
That's literally the FedEx mantra, right?
Yes. Nobody taught them that.
Are you serious? Wow.
No.
That's crazy.
Because their experience
they put them through processes. They never understand the big picture.
Really?
Nobody spent the time to do that. So I'm sitting there saying...
Hold on, stop. They're talking about overnight express.
And in their mind, they are resenting the customers.
Wow.
They're resenting the customers. Do you know how many times?
And that comes through on every phone call.
Yeah, how do you change that? So because they're never going to relate to the customers.
So
they can't relate to them.
So what we tell companies is there are 3 root causes for your bad performance. We call them passion, performance, and practice. Either they don't have the passion for what they do. The performance standards are different between what they think is good and what you think is good. Or you didn't let them practice before you send them straight live to talk to customers, and then they're afraid to practice that. So we usually use those as the starting point to see where's our issue. Do they have the passion? Do they understand the standards? Have they practiced before they went live? And you'll see that in almost every business, and Baruch Hashem, I worked on a wide variety of businesses, including designing cosmetic stores in Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Only God knows how I got there, but I did. Passion, performance, practice. And if you got those, then you need to ask yourself, are my employees choosing to rise up and bring their humanity to work, or they're playing victim to processes and hiding behind it?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Anything else we didn't cover? Lior, anything else in the book you want to mention? Or
I think that so in the book we have 3 sections. The last section is how to apply it. So we apply it to personal relationships. We apply it to leadership. We're applying to how to motivate your personal teams and everything else. But there's one piece there that I mentioned at the end. Most people don't know that. Claude Monet, his famous lilies pictures,
mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
He painted in his 80s. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, life is not over at a certain point unless you decide it's over. And I'm challenging people to understand that you can, when you write your life story, write it as you are an experimental innovator that constantly is looking for the next, as opposed to closing chapters and closing yourself. Mm-hmm. The MoMA here was designed when the architect was in his 92nd year, mm-hmm. and he still had the passion, the dream. He didn't let that little child in us stop dreaming. Mm-hmm. So Dare to Author is challenging you to author the future, not just the past. And my challenge to people is victimhood is our default when we see the unplanned events in life. And we're going to rise up if we'll actually learn from our past experiences what tools, what resilience, what strength is available to us to actually be ready for that.
Great. Looking forward to a book for teens on that same topic.
But one of the reasons why I liked the title, Elizabeth, is that Lior was coming at it from a writing, authoring as a framing, like that kind of spoke to us as a public.
I was saying before we went on the air that one of Alexander Hamilton's great successes was that he realized that he was not going to be the author of his history.
I see.
And you gotta go back and watch the last 15 minutes of the Hamilton on Broadway. It's literally saying, we're not telling our own stories, someone else is going to, so you just kind of have to do your best.
It's true.
It's very interesting. But thank you very much. Very fascinating.
Thank you very much. We're happy to have you. Okay.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with us on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast. If you would like to participate or be in touch with us in any way, please email us at editor@jewishlink.news and follow us and find our podcast wherever you find podcasts.